Welcome to Defensive Driving Part 3, Special Circumstances. We will be discussing such topics as backing a vehicle, weather situations, and other special challenges of the road. Part 3 takes a look at the following. Section 1 reviews how to safely back a vehicle. Section 2 covers special circumstances that you encounter on the road, such as work zones, stopped law enforcement and other work vehicles, and inclement weather. The third and final section is called Challenges, which involves sharing the road, wrong-way drivers, and aggressive drivers. Let's get started by watching a video that reviews some great tips on how to back a vehicle safely.
Today's lesson focuses on backing. As we all know, backing is a crucial skill that drivers perform every day. We are not going to be successful in our jobs unless we've mastered the ability to back safely. Many of us, maybe you, have been backing up trucks for years, and you may be thinking that there's not much left to learn or to review. But if backing is so routine, then why is it the cause of the largest number of truck driving accidents? Let's start by reviewing some of the basic rules and principles of backing that you need to keep in mind. You've heard most of these before, but maybe you don't think about them as much as you should, and maybe you'll pick up a point or two that you hadn't thought about. The second is goal. Get out and look. This is always a best practice. Look for items in your backing path. This includes items on the ground, to the sides, as well as overhead. So, before you back into any spot, you should get out of your truck, using 3 points of contact, of course, and walk to the back of your truck and see what's there. Then take a thorough look at where you're going to be backing into. Remember to look up, too. Look overhead to see if there are any signs, trees, wires, canopies, or suspended lights in your path. Does the roof line extend from the building you are backing towards? Is the doorway you are backing to covered by a canopy? Walk in the direction you'll be driving and take a look at the surface you'll be backing over. Are there any objects, holes, or bumps in your backing route? The third is to use a spotter. Using a reliable spotter is a great advantage for the straight truck driver. If you have a helper or you are partnered with someone where you work, this person can be your best defense against a fixed object collision while backing or pulling into tight spaces. However, it is a good idea to get out and look together, even when you have a spotter. By getting out, you can assess the hazards and show the spotter where you need him to focus and how he should communicate to you. Also, before you begin backing with spotter assistance, establish communication signals so that you both understand the directions you are giving. For example, a closed fist would be the signal to stop. It is also a must that you, as the driver, can always see the spotter clearly. If your spotter goes out of view, you must stop immediately until the spotter is back into you and you can see the signals clearly. Remember, as the driver, the responsibility is still yours. Having someone who is unfamiliar with your vehicle or the location helping you back up could still be a risk. Take your time and use goal as often as necessary. The fourth guideline is to back slowly. Let the truck do all the work. Put it in reverse gear and stay completely off the throttle. If you are backing on an incline, use the minimum amount of throttle necessary and be very light on the pedal. Remember, the slower you go, the more time that's going to give you to make corrections. If you start to get out of position, you'll have that much more time to turn the wheel and make a correction. And if you stay off the throttle and don't ride the clutch, then your truck won't be lurching either. If you give your truck a lot of throttle in reverse, it tends to start bucking and hopping, and you kind of lose your vision out of the mirrors. So just go as slow as you can whenever you're backing into a dock.
The 4 points to remember for the video are: 1. Take your time. There is no need to rush, which is the most common reason for all backing accidents. 2. Use the goal technique. Get out and look. This includes looking up around the vehicle. So many times accidents happen when a driver fails to see obstacles above the truck area. 3. Use a trusted spotter with established hand signals. 4. Always back up slowly, which allows for corrections. Even though the previous video is designed to speak to those drivers who back larger vehicles in small, Tight spots like a loading dock. There are many times when we all drive vehicles that are unfamiliar to us, and this can pose a special challenge. We get used to our own vehicles when driving and most importantly when doing backing maneuvers. However, we may find ourselves driving a friend or family member's vehicle, or we may even find the need to drive a county vehicle. The 4 points listed in the previous slide can also apply to these circumstances as well. Before driving a vehicle unfamiliar to you, make sure you do an inspection to get familiar with the new vehicle by doing a 360-degree inspection. Check the mirrors, beware of blind spots and always back slowly. Never be in a rush. This is the best way to prevent backing crashes. We've looked at how to safely back up a vehicle. Now let's move on to the next section entitled, On the Road. This section includes work zone safety, the move over law, and weather. We will first look at a short video which explains what we should do when driving in work zones.
Work zone safety is a serious matter. Every day, workers risk their lives while improving, but it may surprise you that most of those killed in highway work zones are actually drivers. According to the Federal Highway Administration, during the past 5 years, more than 4,400 people died in work zone crashes, and 85% of those were either the driver or passenger. And the Center for Disease Control ranks Florida as the state with the most motor vehicle crash fatalities in construction work zones.
It's imperative that everybody gets home safely. If you're distracted when you're driving, you could inadvertently get off the edge of the road and actually fall into a potential situation where we're doing construction and harm yourself, your vehicle, and more importantly, the workers that are trying to get the project done.
All it takes is one little distraction and then you're into our people or into our equipment.
Everyone is in a hurry to get where they need to be, whether it's work, school, a doctor appointment, or even just dinner and a movie. We all want to get there as fast as we can.
Some of the violations that our agency observes day in and day out on our construction zones is multiple violations. What I mean by that is following too closely, excessive speed, improper lane change, or just flat-out violation of a traffic control device.
But we need to use common sense driving techniques while on the road, especially when driving through construction zones.
You've got to pay attention. See that sign that says reduce speed? Some drivers think that applies to everyone else but them. The speed limit is reduced for a reason. Something has happened, whether it's the placement of a barrier wall along the shoulder or traffic has been shifted. Most importantly, there could be someone's mommy or daddy working right next to your lane of traffic. Even those we depend on to keep us safe, such as our law enforcement or road rangers, have to work right next to the road to get their job done. Because so much of our construction work is done at night, drivers won't notice changes to the roadways until they drive through the next day. That's why it's important to slow down and pay attention every time you drive through a work zone. And see that car in front of you that slowed down?
Leave some distance between you and them, so in case they have to slam on their brakes, you don't run into their rear end.
Rear-end crashes are the most common types of work zone crashes because drivers tailgate and get impatient when the vehicle in front of them obeys the speed limit or sees a situation which they need to reduce their speed.
Above all, you've got to get rid of all of the distractions and focus on your driving. Put down the cell phone, leave the radio alone, and stop talking to all the people in your car. Just tell them, I'm getting ready to drive through a work zone, and I need to give it all of my attention.
Besides work zones, you need to be aware of what to do when you encounter emergency and service vehicles. Florida law requires you to move over a lane when you can safely do so for any stopped law enforcement, emergency, sanitation, utility service vehicles, and tow trucks or wreckers. If you cannot move over or when on a 2-lane road, slow to a speed that is 20 miles per hour less than the posted speed limit. Slow down to 5 miles per hour when the posted speed limit is 20 miles per hour or less. When you fail to move over, you put yourself and others at risk. You could crash into a vehicle or worker. Violating the move over law will result in a fine and points on your driving record. For more information, see Section 316.126 of the Florida statutes. The next brief video demonstrates this move over law.
So, you're driving along when you spot those flashing lights on a vehicle stopped up ahead. Could be a patrol car, an ambulance, or a tow truck. Do the right thing. Move over or slow down to 20 miles per hour below the posted speed limit. When any sort of emergency vehicle or tow truck is off to the side of the road with its flashers on, give them room. It's not just smart, it's the law. And not doing it could cost you some hard-earned cash. Fail to move over or slow down and there could be a ticket coming your way. Florida's Move Over law is designed to keep you and our emergency workers safe on Florida roadways. When you see an emergency vehicle or tow truck stopped ahead with its flashing lights on, approach with caution. Change lanes away from the emergency vehicle as long as it's safe, or slow way down to 20 miles per hour below the speed limit. Hey, these folks are out there looking out for you, so you look out for them too, will ya? All you gotta do is move over a lane to give them some space, or slow down if you can't change lanes. So move over, Florida. It's the law. Help keep Florida's roadways safe for everyone by moving over or slowing down when emergency vehicles have their lights flashing on the side of the road. Move over, Florida. A message from the Florida Highway Patrol, paid for by the Florida Department of Transportation.
Besides the other vehicles on the road, we must be aware of the weather and how it affects our ability to drive safely. Adjust your driving habits when there is inclement weather. Bad weather can contribute to reduced visibility, vehicle traction, and steering control. We've discussed how to back safely in special circumstances as we are on the road. Now we will discuss sharing the road, wrong way, and aggressive driving. Here are some tips for sharing the road with trucks. Pass trucks on the left side for maximum visibility. Do not use your high beam headlights when you are following a truck at night. Stay out of a truck's no-zone areas. Commercial motor vehicles have large blind spots in front, behind, and on both sides of the vehicle. This is known as the no-zone. Never tailgate a truck and keep in mind that most commercial vehicles often need to swing wide to the left so that a right turn can be completed. According to the National Safety Council, when you're driving behind a school bus, allow a greater following distance than if you were driving behind a car. This will give you more time to stop when the yellow lights start flashing. It is illegal in all 50 states to pass a school bus that is stopped to load or unload children. Never pass a bus from behind, or from either direction, if you're on an undivided road, and if it is stopped to load or unload children. If the yellow or red lights are flashing and the stop arm is extended, traffic must stop. Be alert. Children often are unpredictable, and they tend to ignore hazards and take risks. Buses are not the only special vehicles to watch out for when on the road. Watch the next 2 videos about sharing the road with bicycles and motorcycles.
So here are some tips for motorists. Stay alert. Avoid all distractions while driving. Yield to bicyclists when turning. In bad weather, give bicyclists extra passing room, just as you would other motorists. Make a visual check for bikes by checking mirrors and blind spots before entering or leaving a lane of traffic. Slow down and give at least 3 feet of clearing when passing. Reduce your speed when passing bikes, especially when the road is narrow. And never honk your horn at a bicyclist. It could cause them to swerve into traffic or off of the roadway and crash. Always check for bicyclists before opening your car door. And don't forget that children on bikes are often very unpredictable. Expect the unexpected. Now, Andy, how about some tips for bicyclists?
Well, bicyclists should ride on the roadway or shared pathways rather than on the sidewalks. Follow the same rules of the road as other roadway users, including riding in the same direction as traffic and following all the same traffic signs and signals. Signal all your turns. Wear a helmet every time you ride. Be visible, wearing bright colors during the day, reflective gear in low light conditions, and use head and tail lights when riding at night. Remember that respect is a two-way street. Show motorists the same courtesy you expect from them.
Those are all great tips. Remember, same rules, same rights.
Share the road, it could save a life.
How to share the road with motorcycles. Hey driver, there's a few things you need to know about sharing the road. Bikes are narrow, so they can hide in your blind spot, or be hidden by other objects. Look twice. Motorcycles aren't always visible. When motorcycle drivers slow down, they might use the throttle, not the brake, so you may not see brake lights. Treat motorcycles like cars. Allow 3 to 4 seconds of following distance. See that biker? She's not being reckless, she's navigating road conditions you might not be aware of. Be courteous. Road conditions affect motorcycles differently. Because of a bike's size, it can be hard to gauge how far it is and how fast it's going. Be safe. Motorcycles are closer than they seem. Just knowing more about your two-wheeled pals keeps everyone safer. Geico Motorcycle. More than just car insurance.
Wrong-way driving crashes occur when a vehicle has not observed the posted traffic signs or pavement markings and then proceeds in a lane going the wrong direction. Especially at night and during transitional light times such as dawn and dusk, motorists are encouraged to stay in the right lane when possible to avoid a crash with a wrong-way driver. In the majority of wrong-way crashes, vehicles are hit head-on, resulting in 81% of all wrong-way fatalities. Head-on collisions are some of the most dangerous and deadly crashes. Here are some tips to keep in mind to avoid wrong-way drivers. Stay alert. Stay right at night. Call 911 immediately to report wrong-way drivers. If you see someone driving the wrong way approaching you on the road, immediately reduce your speed and pull off the roadway. Obey all traffic signs. If you drive past a wrong-way sign, turn around immediately. Look for Florida Department of Transportation dynamic messaging signs for wrong-way driver alerts. When you see an alert, reduce your speed, move over to the right and proceed with extreme caution. If you see a wrong-way driver approaching, immediately pull off the roadway. Another driving challenge is the aggressive drivers you may encounter along the roadway. While there are many types of aggressive behaviors on the roadway, the most common aggressive driving habits include honking, yelling, gesturing, and tailgating. The next slides will list other aggressive driving activities to avoid and beware of as you take to the road. According to the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, the following actions constitute potential aggressive driving. Illegal driving on shoulder of the road, ditch, sidewalk, or other improper driving area. Passing, regardless of posted traffic signs and road markings. Another type of aggressive driving is the failure to yield or obey traffic signs, devices, or zone laws. This includes the failure to signal. Also, driving too fast for conditions or above the posted speed limit is an extreme form of aggressive driving. Some drivers even race other drivers. More than half of fatal crashes involve these types of aggressive driving actions. In order to drive defensively, you must be aware that there are many aggressive drivers on the road who practice one or more of these aggressive driving habits daily. You have now finished section 3, and you have done a great job. You are almost done, but first let's do a quick review. First, we must remember the 4 points to backing a vehicle safely to avoid crashes. Next, when you are on the road, remember that work zones require all of your attention. Be on high alert for your own safety and for the safety of road crews. Florida law requires you to move over a lane for all stop law enforcement, emergency, sanitation, utility service vehicles, and tow trucks or wreckers. Finally, there are always special challenges encountered on the road such as wrong-way and aggressive drivers. We must remember to share the road with all types of drivers and vehicles. When we keep these tips in mind, we will always be prepared for all special circumstances as we get behind the wheel and take to the road.